Chapter 1: The Weaver's Dilemma. Long ago, in a bustling town cradled by the rolling mountains, lived a skilled weaver named Elias. The town was alive with the chatter of merchants, the clatter of cobblestones under horse hooves, and the melodic hum of workers in the fields. Among them, Elias stood out, not for his wealth, but for his unmatched artistry. The garments he wove were not just clothes, they were masterpieces. Patterns of stars, vines, and mythical creatures danced across his fabrics, earning him the admiration of nobles and villagers alike. His name traveled far beyond the mountain borders, whispered in markets and courts as the artisan whose hands could turn thread into gold. Elias worked in a cozy workshop filled with the faint smell of wool and dye, illuminated by warm sunlight streaming through small, glass-paned windows. At its heart stood his loom, a sturdy yet aging contraption of polished wood and taut strings. This loom had been his companion since the beginning of his trade, handed down from his father, who had taught him the craft. It was more than a tool, it was a part of him, and every groove in its wood told a story of long hours and countless creations. One day, as Elias prepared a new tapestry for the mayor, a commission promised to be his finest work, he noticed a faint tear in the loom's upper beam. It was no larger than the width of a fingernail, but it was there, like a shadow lurking in the corner of his mind. Elias ran his fingers over the tear, his brows furrowed in thought. "It's nothing serious," he muttered, brushing off the worry. He pushed the thought aside and focused on his day's work. "I'll fix it tomorrow. There's no rush." But tomorrow came and went, as did the days that followed. Elias grew consumed by his weaving, always finding a reason to postpone the repair. Orders kept piling up: wedding shawls, ceremonial robes, and cloth for merchants traveling to distant lands. With his hands busy and his mind preoccupied, the tear was forgotten. At first, the loom performed as it always had, steady and dependable. But as the weeks passed, subtle signs of strain began to show. The once fluid motion of the beam became jerky, causing Elias to pause now and then. Yet he waved it off as the quirks of an aging tool, assuring himself that it could wait a little longer. After all, his work was in high demand, and time was precious. Then came the fateful afternoon. The mayor had requested a grand tapestry to hang in the town hall, a piece meant to commemorate his years of service. It was a monumental task, requiring Elias's utmost precision and creativity. He worked tirelessly, blending colors and patterns that seemed to flow like water on the fabric. Every thread he wove felt like a note in a symphony, building toward a masterpiece. The small tear, however, had grown under the strain of weeks of neglect. It was no longer a minor flaw but a hidden wound waiting to break open. As Elias worked on the mayor's tapestry, his movements grew faster, his focus narrowing on the intricate patterns. Suddenly, a loud snap shattered the silence of the workshop. Elias froze as the beam of the loom split apart, sending threads unraveling in every direction. The fabric he had poured his heart into fell to the ground, a tangled mess of broken strings and incomplete artistry. Splinters of wood scattered across the floor, and the once sturdy loom leaned precariously, groaning under its own weight. His heart sank. Months of effort, the mayor's trust, and his own pride, all of it seemed to collapse in that moment. The repair he had dismissed as minor had turned into a disaster. The loom, his trusted companion, now lay before him in ruins. Elias knelt on the floor, picking up the threads of the ruined tapestry with trembling hands. He looked at the broken beam and realized the depth of his mistake. "If only I had taken the time," he whispered, his voice heavy with regret. "If only I had listened to that little voice in my mind." The sun began to set outside, casting long shadows across the workshop. Elias sat there in the dim light, surrounded by the remnants of his neglect, understanding for the first time the cost of putting off small tasks. That night, as he stared at the damaged loom, he remembered something his grandmother had often told him: "A stitch in time saves 9, Elias. Don't wait until the hole grows too big." Her words now echoed in his mind, a painful reminder of the lesson he had ignored. The weaver, known for his foresight and precision in his craft, had overlooked the simplest truth: neglecting the small things can lead to the ruin of great things. And in that realization, Elias knew he had no one to blame but himself. Chapter 2: The Cost of Neglect. Elias stood in the wreckage of his workshop, the broken loom a painful reminder of his mistake. He knew he couldn't fix it alone, so he rushed to find the town carpenter, Master Hugo. Hugo was known for his expertise, but also for his straightforwardness. When Elias arrived at Hugo's shop, the carpenter inspected the damaged loom carefully, running his calloused fingers along the cracked wood. Finally, he looked up and said, "Elias, this could have been mended swiftly if you'd called me earlier. But now the wood is warped, and the break has splintered deeper. This will take me days to rebuild, and it won't be cheap." Elias felt the weight of Hugo's words. What could have been a simple repair now required a complete overhaul. He agreed to Hugo's terms, but the cost would eat into his already tight budget. Worse, the delay meant the mayor's tapestry would not be completed on time. The news of Elias's failure spread quickly through the town. The mayor, known for his pride and exacting standards, was furious. If Elias cannot deliver on his promises, the mayor proclaimed to his attendants, "I will find another craftsman who can." Soon, others began to doubt Elias as well. Longtime clients, who once praised his artistry, hesitated to place new orders. Merchants whispered about his carelessness in the market square, and nobles sought out alternative weavers in neighboring towns. His once thriving workshop grew quieter each day. Elias sat alone amid his spools of vibrant threads and half-finished pieces. The room that had once buzzed with activity now felt like a hollow shell. He stared at the loom's remains, his mind replaying the moment it had broken. In that stillness, his grandmother's words echoed in his memory. "Elias, a stitch in time saves 9." She had said it countless times while darning socks or mending his childhood tunics. She would pull him close, holding up a piece of fabric, and explain, "If you catch a small tear early, you can sew it up with 1 or 2 stitches. But if you wait, the tear grows bigger. Then you'll need 9 stitches, or more, to fix it." As a child, Elias had laughed at the simplicity of her wisdom. "Why would I let the tear grow?" he had asked. But now, the answer was painfully clear. Neglect wasn't about laziness alone, it was also about overconfidence and misplaced priorities. The cost of his neglect was more than just a damaged loom. He had lost the trust of his clients, the mayor's favor, and his sense of pride in his work. Each day that passed without the hum of the loom or the satisfaction of completing an order felt like another stitch unraveling in the fabric of his life. Desperate to regain his footing, Elias tried to repair the damage to his reputation. He wrote letters to his clients, apologizing for missed deadlines and asking for patience. Some responded with understanding, but many had already moved on. The mayor, in particular, was unforgiving, commissioning another weaver for the tapestry. Without steady income, Elias's finances began to dwindle. He sold off some of his prized threads, luxurious silks and rare dyes he had collected over the years, to pay for Hugo's work on the loom. Watching the carpenter dismantle and rebuild it piece by piece was a daily reminder of his failure. One afternoon, as Hugo worked on the final adjustments, he looked up and said, "You know, Elias, this is a fine loom. It's strong and well crafted. But even the strongest tools need care. Don't wait until it's too late next time." Elias nodded, the words striking a chord deep within him. He realized that Hugo wasn't just talking about the loom, he was talking about life itself. Small problems, whether in tools, relationships, or responsibilities, could spiral into disasters if left unchecked. When the loom was finally repaired, Elias ran his hand over its smooth, reinforced frame. It was stronger than before, but the repair had come at a steep price, financially and emotionally. The lesson was clear: neglect doesn't just cost time or money, it chips away at trust, opportunity, and self-respect. As Elias prepared to weave again, he made a silent vow: no more delays, no more excuses. He would tend to every thread, every tool, and every commitment with the same care and precision he once reserved for his art. But the road to redemption would not be easy. The cost of neglect was heavy, and Elias knew he would need to work tirelessly to rebuild what he had lost. Yet, as he sat at the loom and began to weave his first pattern in weeks, he felt a spark of hope. Each thread he wove was a step toward restoring his craft and his life. Chapter 3: The Birth of a Proverb. Elias, having learned the hard way, was determined not to let his life unravel again. With his loom repaired and his resolve strengthened, he set about adopting a new way of working. His grandmother's words, which had once seemed like a quaint saying, now became his guiding principle: a stitch in time saves 9. Every morning, Elias would inspect his workshop with meticulous care. He checked the tension of the loom, the sharpness of his scissors, and the quality of his threads. If he noticed even the slightest fray in a thread or a squeak in the loom's frame, he would pause his work and fix it immediately. Better to take a moment now, he would tell himself, than to lose days later. His newfound diligence soon began to pay off. Clients who had left in frustration started to return, drawn by the tales of Elias's transformation. They marveled not just at the beauty of his tapestries, but also at his punctuality and attention to detail. Elias became known not only as a master weaver, but also as a man of integrity. The mayor, who had initially turned his back on Elias, decided to give him another chance. He commissioned Elias to weave a ceremonial banner for the town square, a project that required exceptional craftsmanship and a strict deadline. Elias accepted the challenge, pouring his heart into the work. Each day, he worked tirelessly, ensuring every thread was perfectly in place. He double-checked his patterns, tightened every knot, and inspected the loom daily. When the banner was finally completed, it was a masterpiece, a vivid depiction of the town's history, its mountains, and its people, all woven into a single piece of art. At the unveiling ceremony, the mayor stood before the crowd and declared, "This banner is not just a testament to Elias's skill, but also to his wisdom. He has shown us that small efforts made in time can lead to great achievements." The townspeople cheered, and Elias felt a deep sense of pride, not just in the banner, but in the journey that had brought him there. As the years went by, Elias continued to weave, but he also took on a new role, teaching. He opened his workshop to young apprentices, eager to pass on not just his skills, but also the lessons he had learned. To each new student, he told the story of his broken loom and the chaos that had followed. When you see a small tear, he would say, holding up a piece of fabric, don't ignore it. Fix it right away. It's not just about saving time, it's about saving yourself from unnecessary trouble. His words resonated with the apprentices, who carried his lessons with them as they started their own careers. Elias's diligence extended beyond his workshop. When the town council proposed repairing the aging bridge over the river, some members argued that it could wait. But Elias, drawing from his own experience, spoke up. A stitch in time saves 9, he said firmly. If we don't repair the bridge now, we'll be rebuilding it later, at a far greater cost. His wisdom swayed the council, and the bridge was repaired before it could deteriorate further. Over time, the phrase that had guided Elias began to spread. Villagers would repeat it in conversations, reminding one another to take care of small problems before they became big ones. Farmers used it to encourage timely repairs to their tools, merchants used it to keep their ledgers in order, parents used it to teach their children the value of responsibility. When Elias finally retired, his workshop was left in the hands of a trusted apprentice. Though he no longer wove tapestries, his legacy lived on in the town. He spent his days walking through the marketplace, greeted warmly by people who admired him not just for his craft, but for the wisdom he had shared. One day, a traveling scholar visiting the town heard the phrase, "A stitch in time saves 9," and asked about its origin. The villagers eagerly recounted Elias's story, how a small tear in his loom had led to disaster, and how he had rebuilt his life by embracing foresight and diligence. The scholar was so inspired that he included the phrase in a collection of proverbs he was compiling. From there, the saying traveled far and wide, crossing borders and languages. It appeared in books, was spoken in classrooms, and became a part of everyday wisdom for people from all walks of life. Though Elias's name was often forgotten as the saying spread, the essence of his story remained. His life became a quiet but powerful reminder of the importance of acting promptly and thoughtfully. And so, the proverb "a stitch in time saves 9" was born, not just as a phrase, but as a principle, one that has endured for generations, teaching countless people the value of foresight, responsibility, and timely action. Moral of the story: procrastination can lead to larger problems. The moral: procrastination can lead to larger problems. Addressing small issues early saves time, effort, and resources, carries a depth of wisdom that transcends the tale of Elias the weaver. It is a principle embedded in countless aspects of life, from personal habits to global challenges. By delving deeper into this moral, we uncover its significance, practical applications, and enduring relevance. 1. The consequences of procrastination. Procrastination is often viewed as a harmless habit, an innocent delay of tasks until later. However, like the tear in Elias's loom, small issues ignored in the present can snowball into larger problems over time. These consequences manifest in various areas. Personal life: failing to address minor health concerns, such as a persistent cough or fatigue, can lead to severe illnesses that require extensive treatment. Similarly, neglecting personal relationships, avoiding a conversation to resolve a misunderstanding or delaying an apology can cause rifts that become increasingly difficult to mend. Work and responsibilities. In professional settings, procrastination can result in missed deadlines, loss of trust, and, ultimately, reduced opportunities. A small oversight in a project left uncorrected can evolve into a costly error. Financial matters. Putting off financial planning or ignoring small debts can lead to insurmountable financial burdens. Compound interest on unpaid loans is a direct reflection of how delays can multiply problems exponentially. Global issues. On a larger scale, societal procrastination in addressing issues like climate change or infrastructure decay mirrors the lessons of Elias's story. What begins as a manageable repair can escalate into a crisis requiring monumental resources. Procrastination's danger lies in its deceptive nature. The immediate comfort of avoiding a task often blinds us to the long-term complications it creates. 2. The value of addressing issues early. The moral of the story highlights the importance of early intervention and proactive behavior. Tackling problems when they are still manageable requires discipline but offers immense rewards. Efficiency. Small issues are easier and faster to address. Fixing a loose thread in a fabric takes moments compared to reconstructing an entire garment. Cost-effectiveness. Repairs or solutions applied early often require fewer resources. As Elias learned, the cost of mending his loom when the tear was minor would have been far less than rebuilding it after the damage spread. Trust and reputation. Being proactive builds trust. People are more likely to rely on individuals or organizations that demonstrate responsibility and foresight. Peace of mind. Addressing problems promptly reduces stress. The mental burden of an unresolved issue can weigh heavily, often far more than the effort required to resolve it. Elias's transformation illustrates this shift. By adopting the principle of fixing small problems immediately, he not only restored his livelihood but also regained his confidence and peace of mind. 3. Practical applications of the lesson. The proverb "a stitch in time saves 9" is not merely a saying, it is a practical guide for navigating life's challenges. Here are ways to embody this wisdom. Set priorities. Distinguish between urgent, important, and trivial tasks. Addressing important issues early prevents them from becoming urgent crises later. Develop habits of maintenance. Regularly check and maintain tools, relationships, and health. Whether it's servicing a car, watering a plant, or expressing gratitude to a loved one, small acts of care go a long way. Break the cycle of delay. Procrastination often feeds on itself. Consciously tackling even one small task can build momentum and break the cycle. Seek help early. Sometimes, small issues grow because we hesitate to seek assistance. Recognizing when to ask for help can prevent minor problems from spiraling out of control. 4. The emotional and psychological impact. The moral also touches on the emotional toll of procrastination. Delaying tasks often creates anxiety and a lingering sense of guilt. As problems grow, so does the stress associated with them. Conversely, taking action, even on small issues, fosters a sense of accomplishment and control. Elias's journey is an emotional arc that many can relate to. His initial negligence led to guilt and despair, but his proactive approach restored not only his workshop but also his self-esteem. The sense of pride and fulfillment he felt upon completing the mayor's banner reflects the profound psychological benefits of addressing challenges head-on. 5. A universal lesson. The timeless nature of this moral lies in its universal applicability. Across cultures, generations, and contexts, the lesson remains relevant. It resonates with students managing their studies, professionals balancing workloads, families nurturing relationships, and leaders guiding communities. The ripple effect of small actions, or inactions, shapes the trajectory of lives and societies. Just as Elias's decision to repair his loom promptly would have spared him much trouble, our choices today set the foundation for our future. 6. The enduring power of proverbial wisdom. A stitch in time saves 9 endures because it encapsulates a profound truth in simple terms. Its power lies in its brevity, making it easy to remember and apply. Like all great proverbs, it serves as both a cautionary tale and a call to action. Elias's story ensures the proverb's meaning is more than abstract wisdom. It anchors the saying in a relatable narrative, reminding us that every delay, no matter how small, has consequences, but every timely action has rewards. The moral teaches us to value time, act responsibly, and take pride in managing life's challenges effectively. By weaving this wisdom into our own lives, we honor the legacy of those like Elias, who learned its truth through experience and shared it with the world.